Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to a special Zombicide video. This is a comparison of sorts between Zombicide 2nd Edition, which is the modern Zombicide, and Marvel Zombies. So I'm not gonna go through rules and all this stuff like that, because they do play fairly differently. Like the basic rules are the same, like any Zombicide, sight, line of sight, drawing, spawning cards, stuff like that. But the zombies and superheroes have a different mechanic that works differently, and that's not what I'm comparing. What people are questioning about in the Kickstarter for the Marvel Zombies was if the maps go together. So they're wondering if they picked up modern Zombicide, could they use it with the Marvel one to expand their maps. So I wanted to do a quick go over that. And then once I'm done kind of going over that, I am also going to kind of look at some of the different components. I'm going to show off some of the miniatures compared to each other as well. But I'm going to start with the maps because that's what someone was wondering about. So on the left side here, we will have the modern Zombicide. And so I'm going to start with just the core set. So you can see, like, here's our streets. We have our crosswalk lines that show that. You have your doors on here, of course. Doors in there. There's your chest. You can see kind of how detailed. This is just a standard restaurant. And then this is the Marvel one. So you still have your things there. Your crosswalks to divide your zones. And all your different doors and stuff. So if we lay them next to each other, I'm going to maybe see if I can, the problem is trying to get a good view of these while kind of being, trying to stick a wide camera. So I'm going to try and do the best I can. But you can see when we lay them up next to each other, they're clearly going to be the street things line up very well. If I turn them, so this is where we might end up in some issues. Because, of course, the rooms aren't going to line up. But that could just be strictly because there's 4 rooms here and there's 3 rooms there. So we'll take a look. So some might not line up perfectly like that. Let's grab let's grab this. So we have a 4-sided modern room versus a 4-sided Zombicide. So you can set the streets look a lot like. Now, one big thing you're going to notice in there, maybe a little bit more, is there might be a little bit more detail. On the Marvel, it is, of course, darker. So that's obviously one big difference there. But if you look at this, our doors all line up very well. So that's very nice there. We can always rotate these and streets will line up, all that. Sidewalks. So the artwork is clearly a little bit differently, but it's not jarring enough that you couldn't probably play it. The other big difference you're going to notice in there, though, is that Marvel has spots for bystanders, because they use the bystander tokens, and then they have exclamation points for their objective tokens instead of having crates on the board. So that's one other big difference. I'm going to flip over some of these. We're going to look at some other different ones. So if for some reason we had these 2 streets, this arcade running into a church for some reason, who knows why, someone has an arcade into a church. But yeah, otherwise, aesthetically, gameplay wise, they're going to work perfectly fine. The other thing we're also going to get in here, though, is in the 2.0 is we have the dark rooms. So they played a little bit different aspect as well because of how things spawn and things like that. Because I believe they spawn when you enter rooms versus Marvel has spawn points. So there's going to be some things there, and there's the darkness rule. There's no dark spots in the Marvel set as of yet. Maybe if they do season 2, they'll have dark room somewhere. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, then they have different line of sight things. But that's something that could even make, whether you want to play Marvel characters into Zombicide or vice versa, or I don't know if you want to do a mixture of them, like the survivors with the superheroes, because their skill points and everything work differently. And the spawnings works a little bit differently. So you might want to pick one side or the other, but it's definitely doable. Alright, so I'm just going to flip through some of these tiles quick. I'm going to see if I can zoom out a little bit more. You guys can kind of see them a little bit better. So I'm just going to kind of flip through the rest of our tiles. And we'll see what some of our differences are. So there we have another The cafe we looked at before, another four-sided room, the Daily Bugle. We flipped these over. So we have like a grocery store next to a set of rooms and everything, another little apartment. You can see a lot more detail in the marble. You see all the different food, cans, all this stuff, where these are a little bit more vague or open. But I still think they work. So we have a dark with a street, and here we have another inside. So this one's a little bit darker, but it's not quite a dark room. But there we have a bunch of dark rooms. Some different aesthetics there. Let's see, we can always put this one like that, and we can have a full street. So yeah, I think these are definitely compatible with each other. There's our subway, which is always fun. So like here we have our full laboratory for Oscorp. There's our single room in this set. So they do follow a lot of the same stuff, but you can also even do something like this, and you have your little tiny cul-de-sac or circle up there. I'm just going to kind of fly through the rest of these. I don't want to spend too much time going through each one of these. But you can see some of the differences in there. Wakandan Embassy, little tiny grocery store area. Again, I think Marvel has a lot more going on, but like gameplay-wise, there's no reason why these wouldn't match up. And that's kind of what people were wondering, I think. Hey, just how would they look together? I think they'll work just fine. You have to, just make, I think occasionally you're going to get something where, this room here enters off to the side. Like, here, it could go into the street, I guess, if you wanted to. But if I line it up with this four-sided room, it's not going to line up exactly. But I think you'd end up with the same issue if we did the other direction. So, here's our single room there. The single rooms are going to line up. But if I have a four-person room, this one happens to line up fairly close. But again, it's not always 100%. We got, 2 more tiles to look at. But yeah, there's plenty of... Now, here, the only thing here I would say, if you're trying to just buy... If you own Marvel and you're trying to say, hey, I'd like more map tiles, is you want to buy 2nd edition for the map tiles. Because it expands it, it gets the city bigger. I would honestly say if you're just trying to get a bigger city, I would buy a second set of Avenger map tiles. Unless you want to play around with the dark areas. Only because... Not only is the artwork and everything in the mix, because there's so many iconic Marvel locations. It's like, if you're playing on this one here, we have Nelson and Murdoch, just Daredevil's law firm. And then if you flip it over to the other side, we have Avengers Tower. So it's like, I would personally, if I'm just trying to get more map tiles to make my Marvel Zombie game bigger, I would probably just get a second set of Marvel Zombie tiles. Even if it's, hey, I just buy another base set and not even buy the extra expansions. Even if you just pick up the Resistance pack, the Heroes Resistance, which just has the first 4 tiles, that at least gives you your base game 9 tiles to play as, plus 4 additional sides. It's not a huge difference, but you can use either of both sides, double up some of them. Because that's going to be where's 1 through 4 here? That's going to give you either an extra Daily Bugle or another grocery store. So you could put 2 grocery stores next to each other and make a really big giant grocery store if you wanted to. Or we have this shawarma. So you could have a restaurant running into it or another Heroes for Hire building. The subway, you could have 2 subways if you wanted to. You could have it connected one side on either side of the map. And maybe it's a quick transport between them. Or you have a second Oscorp. And side 1 here is a retail store. And then if we flip it over, it's the Wakandan Embassy. So, even that would... these are definitely cool. They get some stuff, but it's a lot of the same stuff. It's 3 buildings, 4 buildings. It's a lot of the same shapes. So if you're trying to get it to look aesthetically different, I think this would probably just be the better thing just to rebuy. But maybe if you're like, hey, I'd like to have the other heroes, I could use the, like maybe if you get, I mean, the other advantage of buying 2nd edition would be you could use those zombie miniatures with the Marvel ones. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to use if you're playing the Heroes version, for example, and you want to have, because if you're playing as zombies in the base game, you're going to have humans that you're fighting against, like soldiers and stuff. But if you want to have like, zombies to fight with against your heroes, you're playing the resistance mode, you can actually use the zombies from 2.0. So that might be an additional reason to pick it up. So then the next sets I want to just do a quick look at here is Washington ZC and Fort Hendrix, the first 2 2nd edition campaign sets. So I just kind of want to bring those out. And I'm only posting both of them because I don't remember which one it is. I think this is Washington. So here's Washington's set. This might be something worth picking up again if you're just looking for additional map tiles to add to Zombicide or Marvel Zombies. This might be one to pick up because you're going to get some more unique shapes and stuff. You're going to get, because it's the White House, you're going to get the White House in here. And if we grab our first tile here of Marvel, which has the Wakandan Embassy, and we line it up with some of these buildings now. Now, the thing is, because this one actually makes a campaign where you're actually playing in the White House, the whole point of it is you're supposed to, be building the White House to play in. So, like, you actually have, like, that, and you can, if I can find them, the different tiles for it. You build, like, stuff like this, you're going to have, like, a hallway to go through. And they have some of the alternate rooms on the outside for here, so you connect these two specifically together, and it finishes off that painting. And this starts to make the interior of the White House, and that's how you're supposed to set this up. And then you have these hallways on the bottom here, lined up, so that way your characters come out, they go into these giant hallways, and they go around. But it could give you something different, because you could have, hey, the zombies are attacking the White House. And that could definitely be there's some dark rooms again. And they're going to give some more interesting things. But the idea is you're supposed to build the outside of the White House to play against. And then you can build the inside that you're running around in. The only thing is because all of these tiles have little doors on the outsides, they line up kind of odd with the rest of the set. So again, they're kind of supposed to go into this hallway here. The idea is you can go in and out the hallway wherever, and then they line up with the other pieces on the bottom corners, up at the top corners versus in the middle. So they won't generally line up with inside the White House, won't line up with these boards very well. But that's what's nice, is because on the other side of some of them, we have, if I can find them, we have, because it's starting on the back side of the White House, because we have some more Oval Office for an underground room. We have the outside tiles, so you can play outside and have tanks and stuff, which could, again, be an interesting thing to add in to fighting against the zombies. Hey, look, we're fighting against the tanks, and you could have it, a tank across the street from the Wakandan Embassy. You might be like, initially, well, that seems kind of ridiculous to lay it out like that. But if we actually grab some of the campaigns, so like just showing like one of the campaigns for the Washington DC. So there's the inside of the White House, kind of showing it all set up like that. But then they have other ones like this, where they mix the streets from the 2.0, from the base game, in with the tank sets. So they do have stuff where you are mixing them together. And then this one's kind of mixing This is actually most of the regular sets. Yeah, then they have some of the other ones you can play as. You can be getting into the White House through some of these. Like that one's kind of neat too. There's no reason why you couldn't use these grass ones with the tanks and combine them with the regular city spaces from Marvel. So that could definitely work there. So that might be one reason to get that. As you could pick up this set, and then you get the extra outdoor tiles. You get the White House to attack, which could be kind of a fun mode. Another thing which we will look at after I go through all the map to look at is some of the miniatures you can get for it, because you get some other different miniatures as well. You get like the president and stuff. Then the other one was Fort Hendrix, which is an army base. So this is going to follow more of the traditional Zombicide with your streets and your openings on the side. A little bit bigger buildings. Some of the doors are down here, but these outsides kind of line up on there. But this is going to give you an army base you can then play against, which again could combine very well with the Marvel set. You still have your streets. You still have all your different buildings. We got like a stop and go area, which is kind of neat. So you can set that up like, you know, hey, we're getting into to go to the Wakandan embassy. You have to cross through this, you know, divider. You know, neat, interesting things like that. And then there's some of the rooms. So, like, again, sometimes they're going to line up, sometimes they're not. And that's the only thing you're going to end up with this is, like, I'm putting this next to this street. None of these want to line up because they have a single hallway here, and then they have two doorways there. And there's not really... They don't really line up with the Marvel one. That's the only thing you're going to end up with. Some of the buildings might not line up properly just because of how they are. Let me see if any of the other buildings line up like that. Yeah, see, they're all going to kind of... If they have the street on there... See if we put a street with a street side. Yep, then they line up nicely. If you have two streets together, so this hospital goes into damage control. So yeah, you could definitely do this. This is going to give you a military complex to get into, which could also, again, be fun to add into it. Some other different shapes, like lots of them are lots of the same unique shapes, but they also do still have their dark spaces that the base game had as well. And we got some... Plus, we get a giant helicopter, which could add for some fun modes as well. And there's another medical one there. So the only other... I didn't really point this out, but the Washington one does have special symbols out there for special places to pick up... if you were playing the regular Zombicide, to pick up the special items from that campaign. They have a special deck. And then some of the spaces do have that... Washington symbol, or the star symbol. Now, if I can find any of them. I'm looking for them. I can't find them. Yeah, for Secret Service, to pick up special Secret Service items. They do have that. And then the Fort Hendrix set, which is the military base set, does have things where you can only pick up items from their special deck. You can only pick them up from, like, tanks and stuff like that. So, that's kind of an interesting idea. So, again, like, second edition, just core set, you're going to have a lot of the same type of city spaces that are going to look different. So if you just want a completely different set, you could get that. But if you're getting either the Fort Hendrix or the Washington ZC, you're going to get a different style. Things to add in if you're trying to make a new mode. Now, the last one we did want to show off there was the brand new one, Rio Z Janeiro, which is the Brazilian set. So this one's going to give us another full aesthetic. So we are going to get some outdoor buildings. And again, we're going to have the dark mode stuff. We're going to have some more outside spots, which there's not a lot of in the city environments. There was a couple in the Washington one with the outdoor. We're going to get some more outdoor sets, which would be kind of neat to maybe add in or link up to some of these other sets. Like here, outside of the Avengers Tower. Plus, this also adds some extra new mechanics as well. It has the narrow spaces you can go through. not this particular one here, but it has thin walls, which is a new mechanic, so you can break through these thin walls. There's like a soccer field you can set up. There's some just different areas here. Just something, a different aesthetic you can get. Then here's these thin spaces where only a single miniature can get into each one of these spots. Which, again, mixing with Marvel could add that, and the thin walls could add some new mechanics to the Marvel game as well. Because I don't know if any of the Marvel expansions added special map rules or not. I know that there kind of is with, like, the Helicarrier, or the Hydra base have kind of like opposite sides. So you either play as half and half or all of one. That has some special mechanics. The X Mansion has different levels of the floor you can go to. So there are some different things like that. Same thing as Clash of the Sinister Six. They have the ability to go between, like, in and out of the subway. So some of that's actually a little bit different too. But like here, like, we could link up this city street. Oh, going from the Avengers Tower into this, for some reason, opposite of these little disheveled houses that you can go through into a field. Or you have, like, that's the same one. It goes down this narrow hallway that can only hold two characters at a time. So then, of course, the other thing that is also interesting with the Rio Z set is the beaches. So we're going to get a street with, like, a beach setting. Now, there are 3 tiles for the beaches. So you can make one big long beach. One with, like, a dock on it, one with a boat, and then one with, like, a lifeguard building. So it's not a ton of extra stuff in there, but it could also just give a little bit of extra flair or different setting types to those for something different. There are some other different tile spots on this board as well, besides the narrows. There's the forest you can go into, which block lines of sight, which again adds different gameplay mechanics. There's also the stadiums you can go through. There's 2 of these. There's the second one is right there, so you can set the stadiums up next to each other, which you can go through, but you can't search in. Add some other different elements to the game. Alright, so that's all the different tiles we currently have. I can't show off any of the other Marvel ones because I only have the Heroes Resistance and the Core set, which are the same exact tiles. But maybe this might be something I'll revisit a little bit more when I get the full Kickstarter. So that's all I have for the tiles. So the next part of the video, I'm going to look at some of the different other components to compare to see if it might be worth maybe picking up some of the second edition if you want to expand your Marvel set a little bit more, or possibly vice versa. Alright, so let's check those out. Alright, so for this part of the video, I wanted to kind of just show off the characters you can play, the miniatures first, and then I'll head and go looking at some of the different other components. So on the zombie side, second edition side here, we have the survivors, who are all like a bright orange plastic. Of course, you have some different ones. I don't remember all their names off the top of my head. But we have like she has a katana. I believe this is probably Wendy from the base game. She has her chainsaw. And then from the Fort Hendrix set, we have a soldier. So I kind of thought that was neat too. So again, that might even be a thing if you're trying to mix and match the games together. If, like, you picked up the Fort Hendrix set, I think all 6 survivors are some sort of soldier or soldier equivalent. Some have guns, some have different things that are like one's a medic. But they're all supposed to be, like, military. So that might be a neat thing to pick up if you want to play, like, you're combining the games. You could pick up the soldier guys to maybe fight off against the Marvel Zombies. Which might be kind of neat. So then, like, the Marvel, I just picked up 2 different base. And just again, you kind of see a size comparison. Of course, we have good old Spider-Man. And then the Hulk. And then, now, also keep in mind, though, is some of these guys are from the Marvel Zombies regular core set. Same thing with any of the ones you get from the Kickstarter campaign. The regular expansions or the stretch goals, I usually have bigger, crazier bases like this Spider-Man does, versus the Hulk, who's just kind of plain. And then we have some of the zombie ones, because these guys are playable heroes. Not heroes, I guess, but they're playable as well. So if you want to play, you can also play zombies against, fighting other zombies, I guess. But like you can see, it has a little bit cooler base on there. And then we have a Captain America. It's like a comparison. This, I don't know, I think this is a regular Captain America. I don't know if this is a special Captain America base. It's like the Hulk guys are both pretty big, but like comparing, like the human characters are about the same size. They just don't have the fancier bases, which do make them take up a little bit more room. But even still, look at this. I can fit 4 main characters in one room without an issue. Just if you start getting too many with zombies in there, it'll end up cluttering. But, I mean, I could even just say if I took the regular 3 survivors, I could get 5, 6 in there before it starts getting crowded. It's only because Hulk is so huge. And not every character is always that big. So it's just a difference there. And we have the different colors, of course. Orange, that, and green. So the only thing that's ever going to start to get into a confusion is the green guys, because some of the other characters become green. But I'm going to set these guys off to the side for a sec, and we're going to look at some zombies. So we have our two different types of walkers for modern side. I know these aren't the best views of them. My camera doesn't get that low, and I don't want to figure out how to prop them up. But then we have a runner and a brute, who are different shades. So if we hold these, if I pull these guys up for you, you can see that they're definitely different shades, a light gray versus a dark gray. They made the runners a different color as well, just to help so you can tell a humanoid looking zombie apart. But again, you could play as Marvel Spider-Man and have them, even if you're just playing the Marvel campaign, instead of fighting off against zombie characters, who I don't have any zombie miniatures right now because they didn't come in the X-Men Resistance box, which I don't have yet, which is like some different Marvel characters. It's like Multiple Man, and the Reavers and stuff like that. You could instead swap those things out, because they're still the equivalent of walkers, runners, and brutes, and swap them out for the equivalent of these guys. So if you want to have your characters fighting actual zombies versus comic book character zombies, you could do that. It'd be kind of a neat, different aesthetic if you wanted to do that. There's also... so for Marvel, currently all we have for zombies is Heroes Resistance. We have cardboard standees. So we have the Walker, Runner, and Brute as standees. That's how they came in the Resistance set, because it's a little bit cheaper to be made. But again, this is also something you could do is if you bought 2.0 and you wanted, I don't really like, I want my, you could grab the Marvel base game, the Heroes Resistance, and you could swap out all your zombies for cardboard standees, which to some extent isn't terrible, because then you can usually tell what's what very quickly. So that's always an option as well. So we got that. What we do have to fight against the zombies is we have shield agents. So you have which also come in different colors. So you have your Walker, your Runner, and your Brute, which come in different colors, so you can tell them apart a little bit quicker as well. Again, they're all different colors than the rest of them. And so these are supposed to be played if I'm playing as Zombie Captain America. I can try and eat human things. Now, this could also be an interesting thing you could try and do if you wanted to. You could try and swap some of these guys out for survivors. If you had, about a 6-pack of survivors, make the survivors, something special for that. Or, problem is they're all the same color, so it might not work as well. But it's a potential thing you could do. Or for some reason, you could have survivors fighting S.H.I.E.L.D., military people. Like, hey, we're trying to do this, and the military's coming in fighting. That could be also an interesting combination. So there's some mixing and matching you can do there as well. The other couple of things is, of course, Ret 2.0 has Abominations. So this one's from the base game. This is from the one of the expansions. It's a crocodile, so this thought kind of neat. So they have their Abominations, where the Marvel game, depending on which side you're playing, if you're playing as the blue heroes, your Abominations will be the zombie characters that will come in. Or if you're playing as the zombies, it'll be the hero characters that come in. Now, that could be an interesting crossover. I haven't checked to see how it works. Again, rules might not work, but that could be potentially something you could swap in one of these guys. Or even just alternatively, if you're playing Modern 2.0, and you draw an Abomination card, you could draw a Marvel character instead. Just ignore their special abilities if they don't, because they probably won't work in that version. Because typically most Abominations just treat it as a generic Abomination, where it does 3 damage, has 3 health, moves 1 space. You don't have to give any special abilities, but to give you something, a different model to swap in. So I was saying now my 3 characters are fighting off against Zombie Hulk instead of a Zombie Crocodile. Might be kind of an interesting thing to do as well. Or, oh crap, they have to deal with a zombie Captain America running around. Yeah, he doesn't have any special abilities, maybe, but it could be something fun to do. Alright, so the last couple of minis we have, I want to show off for Fort Hendrix as well, as we get zombie shooters. So these are long-range characters. They have special rules built in that have shooter rules they work on, so they can actually shoot long distance. But again, this could also be if you bought Fort Hendrix, besides just having military characters, you could also just swap in military zombies as well. So if you're playing as the heroes and you have your regular Marvel zombies you're fighting, you can swap in soldiers to fight instead, to take place, even if you just have them take place as a walker, just to give some, instead of just being multiple man, they could be like, oh, we're also fighting some military people. Even if you don't use any special rules, it could give a little bit more flair or aesthetic to the game. Just to note, though, you only get 6, you get, 6 of these in the box. You get 3 of each different form. There's one with this one with a different one. So you're not getting a ton of them, because they're supposed to be special, so they won't replace all your walkers. And the last thing we have is for 2.0, or 2nd edition, I keep changing what it's called, is we have some companions. So these guys came in Washington, D.C., and there was one more that came with Fort Hendrix. They have special missions, supposed to be the president and the secretary, I believe. But they're just characters that are used for specialized missions. So if you're making your own custom missions, if you're playing Marvel, there's 2 extra characters you can add in, or vice versa. Marvel comes with a lot of bystanders based off comic book characters, like J. Jonah Jameson here, or Wong. There's, even in the base game, there's also, I'm not sure if they're all in there, but I know there's, in general, there's, Okoye, you can get Nick Fury in one set, Aunt May, Mary Jane, you can get a lot of different Marvel characters, which you could, even just add in to the zombie side. Sorry, I'm going to keep getting y'all this confused, so hopefully you're following along. You could add the Marvel bystanders into special campaigns for 2.0, 2nd edition, and be like, oh, I have to rescue the reporter, or I have to go save the ninja, or I have to go get the supermodel, or if you're using Aunt May, it could be like the old lady. It could give you different characters that maybe you have to go around and rescue and then transport back, much like you'd have to rescue the president or the secretary. The one from the other thing is a scientist that help cure the plague. So there's some different things there you could do with the different miniatures to be able to mix them all together. Size-wise, they all fit. Character-wise, they all fit. The bases are different, though, so obviously, if you're looking at trying to use rings from one to the other, they will not work. So it's just a heads up there. But although I think all of the hero bases are the same, so all these guys are, even though they're different sizes, they made sure they kept all those the same. Alright, so that is what I have for the miniatures, so I'm going to pause again, and I'm going to grab some of the other components. Alright, so one other thing I did forget to show up. So the Marvel Zombies Heroes Resistance, which is the retail set, also goes along with the cardboard tokens for the zombies, standees. It does have some for the couple of bystanders. So again, these might be another reason to maybe pick, even again, if you're playing 2.0 or second edition, whatever, and you just want to add some extra tiles, you picked up that Marvel base, that Resistance base game. You'd have 4 extra Marvel Zombie tiles to use to add in. Plus, you'd have some Zombie standees. You have some Hero Bystander standees to add. So if you want to, again, replace them. So that's one direction you could go with that way. So there's a couple other things you want to show off then. So regular second edition, you get regular, generic, black dice. Nothing extra special about them. The Marvel Zombie set, you get these awesome, like, blood die with like zombie teeth marks as your one hit. I really like these. They're really cool. Like, hey, I have to roll. You know, oh, I rolled pretty well. Oh, I rolled really bad. I got zombie bite. That's kind of cool. Like, I'm not saying go pick up a full base game for a set of dice. But either set of Marvel Zombies come with this. The regular core Marvel Zombie or the Heroes Resistance. You get 6 of them. So those I think are definitely superior than just generic dice. Any of the campaign sets for Marvel's for second edition, whether it's Washington, Fort Hendrix, or Rio, come with the all-in dice. So these are for special rules for using items that let you basically use them a little bit more powerful. You get to roll these extra dice. And then they have on the one side, they have a break symbol, so it's showing the item is broken. But even still, even if you got this, it's just a like extra set of dice. These are kind of fun to replace. They have little bullet marks with a break symbol. Definitely superior over these. Now you're supposed to, of course, when you're playing second edition, so use in addition to the regular dice, because you're supposed to, this would be upgrades, you only use limited at a time. But it could definitely be if you wanted, even for Marvel, hey, one guy gets this, someone gets that. Might be even more fun, like if you're playing versus against somebody else, like you're making your own games up. Someone wants to play as, I'm gonna play as, you know, the zombie Hulks, and other people like, I'm gonna play as the heroes, and we're gonna compete against each other. Maybe there's different spawns, you know, so it's like, hey, we're spawning, you know. Each turn you spawn, after every turn you spawn different things. So sometimes human characters' shield are spawning. They're going to help the heroes and hurt the villains, and vice versa. It could be kind of neat that we get the zombie guys, we get the bullet guys. You know, it could be an interesting, different thing to do instead of always having the same dice. Again, just aesthetic things to point out. I was wrong. For some reason, I was thinking these guys, second edition didn't have spawn points, but it does have spawn points that look like little zombies on them. And then they have the blue and red side, or blue and green side for alternate ones. Where Marvel's has little exclamation points with some shield outlines on them. They're also blue and green. So this again could be, hey, which side would you rather play as? And this could again be, if you're combining the two games, you could be like, hey, I could use this if I'm spawning zombie characters. This if I'm spawning human characters. So that'd be kind of neat as well if you're playing one direction or the other. Could be kind of neat to have different spawn points out. So we have that. Then we also have our crates. So you're going to get the different types of crates for second edition, which will be your regular crates, but they'll just actually go on the board. So if I actually rotate my camera a bit here. So the idea is you can obviously pick up the stuff on the board, or if you're playing your own game, you can always put them on there and be like, now if someone loots this, you can take it off and know that that's been looted. It's showing that it's open. It's supposed to be the idea of that. That way you know not to access that area again. But you can even just ignore them in places wherever you want on the board. Where Marvel's has the little exclamation points, which is where you would just put your chests on there. It's the same idea. Once I've looted this chest, you take it off the board. And then some of them have alternate sides, like blues. and some of these have like a blue side as well, or a green side that correspond to them. The yellow ones are for your specialty weapons, so they don't ever have a second side, but these are for like hidden objectives. Oh, I flipped over, I found the blue item, But yeah, this, it can also be a different thing of what you want to use in your game. Just aesthetic wise, these are Stark branded ones. These are just little like generic chests. Playing second edition, maybe you want to replace these guys over here, and now you have to find those special Stark chests versus these ones. Just again, that's the whole point of this, to show up all these differences. So the next one we're going to do is show the doors. So second edition versus Marvel doors. So yeah, they don't look too terribly different to begin with. You put your door on wherever your door's at. So we're over here. We have our door here. It probably faces out into the street. And then someone breaks it open. And you flip it over to the other side to show that it's open. Marvel one's the same idea. They don't look too terribly different. But again, if you have maybe a preference on which one, more realistic looking versus comic booky. And then, of course, there's also other colors. We have some green doors for special extra things. So those are all those. Alright, so that's the main stuff where there's one for each set and different things like that. So the other couple of things we have is, in second edition, we get vehicles. They have special rules for driving vehicles down street, carrying people. Sometimes you can search the cop car. So the cop car and the pimp mobile are in the second edition core box. And then this is the Opala, which is in the Rio set. So if you want to get a different vehicle. And they have a couple of different effects in the books. I don't remember them all off the top of my head. And then Fort Hendrix actually has a tank, which you can't drive, but it can be used to be put down to be searchable or as a line of sight barrier. But that could definitely be an extra cool, if you get this, something else you could put down in the Marvel set to like get in the way. Or you could have cars, even if you're not using the driving rule, you could use them to be like, hey, we get a use this as something to move around, or turn it into an object that a superhero can throw. Now here's the thing though, it's like, they're not going to fit on there like these guys do. These guys are perfect size to fit. Bigger heroes won't fit on there correctly. But that could definitely be an idea you could use. And if you want, like, what do I mean by throwing an object? So Marvel has the Avengers symbol, and then the X-Men Resistance set also will have the Sentinel hand, which works the same way. So there's a regular side and a damaged side. And then they have a little mini card for it, which basically says this. So now it's a ranged 0 to 2 attack. Roll a certain number of dice, and then you get 4 accuracy. It says roll 1 die for each enemy in the targeted zone. Heroes are ignored for this attack. Flip the token to its damaged side after... So your heroes are considered to be whatever characters you're playing. They're your survivors. Whether you're playing... If I'm playing this, it's considered my zombie hero. Just for clarification there. Just flip the token its damage sign after the first use, remove it after the second. So basically it's an object that goes on the board the character can pick up and throw up to range and get a potential lot of damage. So that'd be kind of neat. You could throw some cars around on the board as well, and you could generally use the same rule. It'd be kind of interesting if you wanted to. I mean, it does take up a lot more space. It's, at least 2 tiles as much space. But yeah, you can see the Hulk picking up a police car and throwing it at someone. Might be kind of an interesting in-game rule if you want to use the same idea. I believe the Sentinel hand does a ranged attack, so I don't think you throw it. I think it actually shoots a blast out, if I remember it. And I think on the second time you can throw it. I don't remember off the top of my head. Again, I don't have that card to show you. So there's that. There's some different rules there. The second edition campaign also adds night. We had them dark spots. Let me grab one of those maps. So if we have a map here with a dark spot, you can actually get a flashlight and shine into those spaces, and then they let you illuminate those spaces. which is very useful for some of these bigger rooms that have more spaces. They were designed for the campaigns, which have a lot more rooms. They are dark. The other thing, therefore, is the night rule, which came with the campaign. So both Fort Hendrix and Washington, D.C. have this. Rio does not have this. But you have a timer counter. So after every turn, you turn the counter. When it's in the black, you're in night. When you're at night, you have special rules. All ranged attacks have an accuracy of 6. So all ranged attacks are terrible. Or really hard to hit, and ranger or survivors have a line of sight is reduced to 1 to 2, and zombies is reduced to 0. So that's the whole thing. The flashlight then lets you see farther into different zones. So I could be standing here, I could see through this zone out into here. It lets you see extra zones. Yeah, it's the same on both sides. But it does also then attract zombies. There's some more special rules. You can check out the unboxing videos for those to see more about that. But that could be an interesting thing to maybe even add if you're going to play these tiles to add into the Marvel set. Someone could use a flashlight. Hey, it's dark in here. Or like, we might have to battle at night. Even if you don't play with the flashlight. Just like as the game kicks on, like, oh, heroes are trying to survive. Oh, crap. Now it's nighttime. Now they have to survive the night, and everyone has reduced accuracy and stuff like that. So that could be an interesting extra mechanic to throw into the Marvel set. Then the last piece I want to show off is actually for Rio. So let me grab one of the Rio sets tiles. So we did briefly describe we have these narrow tiles in here. So normally you can fit 5, 6 survivors in there. You can only fit one person in each one of these spaces. So if I had this person here, they can't go down this hallway. So they have to wait for this person to move. Zombies can come by. They can actually pull people out. So it's an extra little neat mechanic there. But then there's also these thin walls we kind of looked at, which you can tell are sort of like jagged. Versus a solid wall, which is going to be like, a straight wall like that. Or like the outside ones. But yeah, if there are any of these jagged walls, you can actually break them down with a special move. So they have these extra little tile tokens for that, which will show a broken wall. So if I'm playing here, I can then, break that wall open, and now you can, walk from here into this room. So it's kind of a neat idea, and then they have one like that, so if it's like broken between 2 different areas, you can do that one as well. So if it's going like into a room, or if it's going out into a street. But that's a neat idea. So it's like up here, it's like your character gets into this room, you can break through the wall to go over to that room and try and escape back out that way, or escape this way, break out into the outside here. You have some different options. I think it says you can break one wall in each room though. But that is definitely kind of neat. I like this. Hulk can technically fit in there. He shouldn't be able to. That'd have to be a house rule if you want to say if someone can fit into those. If you're playing the Marvel, if they could fit into something like that. They did, however, also have. Oh, for showing that little rule off. They did have the one with 2 spots. So how that works is basically if someone's here, someone can sneak by you into this spot, but now that there's 2 people, this person can't sneak around. There has to be another spot. So for Wendy to be able to move, she'd have to wait for the soldier to move again, or she'd have to move back out. Again, you could break into these different walls to go into any of these rooms, or move out the top. So that's kind of an extra neat game mechanic for that. The other thing Rio also added were makeshift barriers. So you get 2 of these in the box. And the idea of these are, I don't know if any of these tiles are really going to work very well for that. But the idea is you put them on some area to block off a thing saying no one can get through this area. I know one of the specifics in a mission, it literally has a spawn point right behind it, and then zombies will keep spawning, and it says until a certain thing happens, they can't go through there. Then at some point, something triggers, they break this, and all of a sudden now you have all these zombies who've been building up turn after turn after turn. They're going to break through that wall. So that's kind of a neat other thing you could do is like, hey, the heroes made a makeshift thing on the map so the zombie characters can't get through it. So that's something you could also add from Rio as well. That's basically all the differences we have. I mean, obviously the characters and everything work differently. You'd have to do different stuff there. Oh, trying to grab a character. So, obviously this isn't one of the 2.0 characters, this is one of the retro characters. But we have a 2.0 card. Zombicide, you see they have the 3 health, they have their different effects. Where Marvels have their health at the top, they have less abilities, but they have more specialty abilities. The zombies, of course, have their devour mechanic. And Hero usually has about 3 health as well. But then they have their built-in weapon because they don't use items, they use trait cards. So mixing the survivors with the Marvel characters might not work, but you can mix and match all the components a lot. And that's kind of the whole point of this video. It's just to show that off. Cool. Alright, so one last thing I want to do before I quit this video, is this is just for kind of giggles. So the whole point of this video was to show off how second edition and all the modern stuff would work with Marvel Zombies, because it's kind of the same theme, setting, era. What I wanted to see is what the other sets would look like. So we have Invaders, which is the space one. Some of these tiles are from the base game, some are from the expansions, but this is the space theme set. I just wanted to kind of see how some of these buildings would look. So here's the tiles. These are pretty detailed as well. But again, like all Zombicide, they fit the same general layouts and all that stuff. So we have our doors and stuff. Now this is what's neat about this one though, or different I guess, is the Invader set doesn't have doors. So there's no doors to break open in that. So this could be very easily fixed by saying, obviously you're probably not going to have doors to cover every single door. Just assume there's no doors in the game. Like, this is a space station. This would be kind of fun for Marvel characters to have to play on. Hey, we went up to, the Shield space station, or we're on a Shi'ar platform, the Sword Command Center. So many different things you can say. We're up in the blue area of the moon doing something, some different things there. This is one of the others. You have the outside planet that you can go on. So you can use some tiles have these. The core games and some of the other ones don't. There's airlocks. You can only splash just to go. It's just to collect O2 tanks. So you could have that would be a very rule you could implement. Some characters don't need to breathe in space. Some do. Be an interesting idea. But how do they line up is the question. So the big thing here is if we have 2 tiles here that have doors. So the doors here are right there and there. So these are 2 doors and they line up here and here. So for the 4 rooms, they don't line up exact. These 2 kind of line up, these ones don't. Now let's see if we turn this. Is that going to make any difference? Yeah, so it's going to be even worse. So let's just see one of the different angles here. So yeah, our doors here and here. So our one kind of lines up, our other one sort of doesn't. So they're not going to line up exactly. Obviously, having a street into a space station isn't going to make any sense. But that's not really what the point is. The point wasn't necessarily to just mash these together 100%. It was to kind of see if they would work. So it'd be interesting to see if something like a shield carrier, which is not going to have streets, would do something different. The problem is all of the Marvel ones are going to have streets, and there's no streets on a space station. But we do have other neat ones like this, which have your regular dark room, but then you have a dark full hallway. So we were talking about the nighttime campaign. This should be a neat idea. These are still traversable zones, but they're completely dark all the time. So like we have this space station here. We kind of line these up. Now again, this is supposed to be played for the Black Ops. This is the core set. That's why there's some interior and some exterior stuff. So you wouldn't necessarily mash these together. But you could mash these 2 rooms together. And have a couple of dark hallways there. Or you could combine these 2 and have one big giant long corridor. And again, with something like this, you could throw doors tokens in between these and basically say if there's a door token, you could be like, you can't get through there, or you have to break that down. You could add some specific rules like that. So I just wanted to throw some different heroes and zombies on there. So yeah, we have like Thor, Black Panther, Iron Man, and Deadpool. You can see them fighting in space, fighting space things. So that'd be kind of a neat idea if you want to use those tiles for a Marvel campaign. Aesthetically, they're going to work. I just don't think they're going to necessarily line up with the Marvel tiles very well. Because, if we take another Street Zone tile, our doors do not line up. They kind of do. So, on this one, so if we go double tile to double tile, but you can see these spots down here are a lot thicker versus, the sidewalks. So that kind of changes. But they kind of line up, but maybe not 100%, but enough that at least it's room adjacent, where it's you can still say, okay, I can see where it's at. So you could fake something like this if you want to. It'd probably be more in an idea like this, but then that's where they're not going to line up at all. This one does kind of line up into that room, but then there's no direct access for these two into that one. So it'd be hit or miss to make those guys line up. Just some other examples we have of the Invader tiles, just for the sake of showing some of them off. You have a full black room like this. That could definitely, again, you have a tile set up like this. Maybe your hero's starting here and the lights went off, and they have to get over here. So now our hero characters have to get around in the dark, and have to worry about zombies. You can also play with the Xenos from Invader, which are, I didn't grab any to show with this, but they're aliens versus necessarily zombies. So you have, they have to fight this alien race. I mean, it'd be cool if we had Brood or Skrulls or something, but maybe maybe this is an idea that's something they could add into a Marvel, if they go another season of the Kickstarter, or they add other expansions. That'd be a cool thing they could add with some space elements. But it's just an idea. If you want to add some different, making your own playfield, you could definitely use a space element. Or we do have more tiles like this, which have a very similar feel, which is the Outer World. Now, I don't believe there's any way to have, in either side, either the outside planet, which is supposed to then use the airlock for, or the dark, where you're going to ever have, 3 tiles in a row. But with this one, there's currently no door on this side, so you'd have to have a different tile up on one of these other side for these guys to get into this door. You'd almost have to have something like this as a setup. And then even there, that means your characters would have to go, Zombie Iron Man's going to run out to the outside. He'd have to go like that to get in. He wouldn't be able to get in here because there's no airlock. So that could definitely be an interesting thing. You could have then another tile, so you have to go all the way around this tile. So some different ideas there. Or even if you flip this one the other way, make it even harder to get in there. Or add that one like that. You can go lots of different possibilities. And of course, these are all double-sided, some more just interior spots, which you could then mix with the dark zones as well. Yeah, so a lot of different options and all the different Invader stuff if you wanted to add that in there, if you want to play a space theme. The next one I want to look at is the Western. So again, we have the Western Zombicide, which is not going to probably line up very well with Marvel either. Now, it does get a little bit better. The doorways line up fairly well for something like this. Aesthetically, it's going to look a lot different, street to Western. But you could be like, hey, this is the Western town in New York or something. Or maybe they're visiting a Western city somewhere. Definitely Deadpool hanging out with Iron Man at the bar. And Thor and Black Panther sitting over at Adventures Imagine. Yeah, you could definitely do something different there. What's really neat about some of these Western tiles is instead of always breaking stuff up into rooms, you have this is just one giant full room and then one tiny room. Because they had some different spawn rules, like the corpse piles could spawn things, but they still have their breakup lines. So if we mashed these to this direction, they're still gonna kind of line up. You know, not 100% identical because they kind of tried to get away from that. But then we have like other tiles like this, which is like a big barn. So you can go around, which we've seen Marvel ones like that. That's really, realistically, no different than this one. And you can even play these back to back. And those, they line up a lot better, I think, than the space one. And part of that is because this was designed after 2nd edition came out. So I think it's going to follow more of the same format style as the 2nd edition. So it kind of works a little bit better. Again, aesthetically, they don't necessarily match 100%. But you can make up your own mission and be like, oh, half the town got turned into Old West Town. So it's like the zombies are hanging out over in Old West Town. And the heroes are hanging out in Modern. When they cross over, now they're in Western Town. Like half the city got transformed. You kind of a weird aesthetic. They have their tokens here for their piles. So yeah, something interesting you could definitely do with that. Throw out a few more Western tiles here just to get some different ideas. You could have one like this where they could come in this way, exit the street out there. Some different things on that one. This one's just a massive grave. It's just kind of neat. Like you enter into the house. Oh, good. I was hoping I had at least one. So some of these are from the expansion with the steampunk, which had a trigger here, which adds a steampunk jet that can shoot out, which can block line of sight. Kind of looks like the flashlight thing, but I didn't bring that. But that's just some other different tokens. You could definitely use stuff from these to add in. You could, like, oh, someone activates this, you know, and then it shoots a jet out, which stops zombies or gets away. Now, you're not going to have the steam-powered weapons to necessarily use, but it could be different. This is also a fun mechanic in the Western set, is you have the balconies. So how the balconies work, basically, we have Thor. He can run into this house. He can run up to the balcony. Now he can see all the areas around him. So if let's flop this over like this, to just the Western themed. You know, he can now range attack into this area, or range attack over into these, but these guys can't get up. They can't, obviously, do they have ranged attacks. It could be if they're regular zombie troopers or shield agents or whatever. They can't go up the balcony. They would have to find a way around into the building and then come back up and try and get Thor. And then if someone has a jump mechanic, they can jump back down. Just kind of neat as well. Yeah, so the balcony's added a neat extra mechanic flavor to it. The other thing the Western one added, railroads. So this is kind of cool too. So it has the same idea. You have your 3 spots on there, and you have multiple tracks. But on the flip side of every track is a railway car. So then what's supposed to be happening is you can have the train then move through the stage. So for example, we can start off, we'll have a railroad track, and then the train enters. Now I flip over, now we have a train here, we have some different spots in there. And then when that moves up one, and if it edges to the next spot on the board, if there was a rail there, you would then replace this up to there. You put this rail here, you flip it over. Now I have the second part of the train if you're doing that. And then as it exits the board, then this would come off and would go back to a railroad track. So that could be again, something neat you could add into anything, really. Obviously, the idea of it would be for the Western, but if you had them, there's no reason why you couldn't have a train and railroad tracks running through your Marvel set. Right? Hey, I know it's an old Western style train, but you could be like, hey, for some reason this has a train. And you can even, if you really want to get super role play with it, you could say, like, maybe that's a subway train or something. And you have, like, the subway tiles from the Sinister Six set. And you could treat it the same idea. So it's the subway coming through, and these players, guys can get on it, and they can ride it to the next area. There's some other different mechanics and stuff from each of these games you can use, like the Western one. Of course, we also get like the Gatling gun, which you could set up, or we have the wagon, which you can ride around in. So definitely some different things there. All right, so that's just a different option, and then the third main one is fantasy. So we have our fantasy tiles here. So fantasies again came before 2nd edition, so they're not going to line up very well, I don't think, like room-wise. So if we put a room like this with the Avengers Tower, yeah, so there's a door here, which isn't going to line up very well, and there's a door down here. But again, they also don't have doors showing on the map. But it could add some interesting, again, like how many Marvel comics have had something where they went back in time? So again, you could pick up these tiles. Again, it's neat about lots of the Zombicide stuff, but you just pick up the extra tile packs. So if you don't want the extra tokens, you don't want the miniatures, although that would definitely add to the theming of it. They went back in time and they have to stop the zombie plague there. You could use your Marvel characters on these maps to make your own mission with those, and just treat the different guys as instead of shield agents or like the zombies for the Marvel set. You can use these regular Zombicide ones. But you have some different rooms, you have some different tiles there. I'm just going to kind of flip through some of these fantasy ones to see some different ones. There's a mechanic that deals with water. There's some grass hedges, which actually had a really neat element. So like with the hedges, your characters can't see through hedges. You can move through them, but you might end up spawning a zombie. You have to roll a die. If you roll a 6, I think it is 6 or a 1, probably a 1. You spawn a zombie. So you have to sometimes watch there, but it does. There's no penalty for moving through them, but it does block line of sight. So like Zombie Iron Man here, if he's trying to hunt down Black Panther, wouldn't see him through there if he was, So that makes an extra little different mechanic. We get a different tile like this, which adds a couple of different elements. And then we have one like this, which has some more water, which has hindering ideas, like if they can drop down here, but zombies can't crawl back up the waterway, they have to go around. They can leave on these white spots, but not going up. So it's a different mechanic. I didn't grab one with a tower, though. There are some sets that have towers you can climb up. Again, it's just some different mechanics and different things you can play around with if you pick up the other different sets. Additionally, which I didn't bring out any of, is the classic Zombicide. Not 2nd edition, but 1st edition has a bunch of different tiles as well. Because there's Prison Outbreak, which adds prison tiles. There's Rue Morgue, which adds some survival camps. Angry Neighbors adds some holes that characters have to go on. It's like a shopping mall. Toxic City Mall has a shopping mall. Angry Neighbors has some other different. They're more urban environment. Again, they're not going to line up exactly with the regular Marvel ones, but they could be stuff you could either just play on as your own things, or you could line them up and just play pretend. But again, you can always mix all these things together. If you're using the miniatures and the different aspects of the game, they're fine, but the Survivors and Marvel Zombies aren't going to necessarily mesh because they have different rules of play. But it might be interesting to see if someone messes around and does that. Maybe it's something I'll take a look at in the future. Alright, that's what I got for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this super long video. If you have more questions or anything else you'd like to see me try and take a deeper look at, let me know. I'm happy to jump into this stuff. Thanks, bye.